Key.
Okay.
No matter if it's a parent, a sibling, or a friend, talking about loss with kids can be a tricky subject.
Joining us now is author of Are You With Me, Corey Richens. And Corey, I want to start with your story. What happened in your personal life?
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. He was 39. It completely took us all by shock. We have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6.
And it's only been a year. How did you go from processing death to I need to write a book and help others?
You know, I just watched the struggle that my kids were going through and trying to find something that we could use to cope at nights. Nights are the hardest, it seems like, for everybody when, you know, dealing with anything. But I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night.
I was reading in it, and I remember I just was in tears, and I thought, like, this is perfect for your family. It just seemed perfect. And so I was just baffled at how she even had the time to do that.
And it's, you know, explaining to my kids just because he's not present here with us, that doesn't mean his presence isn't here with us, and he's doing these things with us.
Viewers at home, what they saw in that interview was this bereaved young woman who tragically lost her husband.
Like, Dad is still here, it's just in a different way.
But this would be just the beginning of the story, and boy, was there a lot more coming their way.
And we're clear. All right, good job, everyone. Let's get ready for headlines.
911, what's the address of the emergency? My husband's not breathing. He's cold. Okay, tell me exactly what happened. I don't know. I just came in. I was sleeping with my kids. Okay, I can't understand you. I need you to take a deep breath. What's going on?
It's a little after 3 in the morning, and Corey Richens calls 911 saying her husband Eric is not breathing and is cold to the touch.
Okay, can you do CPR? No, I don't know how. You don't know, I'm gonna tell you how to. Are you willing to do CPR? Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count out loud so I can hear you. I'm counting with you. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Officers are dispatched to the scene. Paramedics and firefighters are already there when they arrive.
In those first few moments of the police body-worn camera, you are watching this life or death moment unfold. Law enforcement is trying to make sense of it all. Inside the bedroom, you can see law enforcement trying to help Eric Richens. He is on his back on the ground. He has no pulse. He's not breathing. And they're using a CPR machine, so you can hear this sort of rhythmic sound.
Okay. What's your first name? Yeah, let me talk to you out here for a second. Let them do their work in there. So what happened today?
He was just fine. We were fine.
When you say we were fine, what time did you see him when he was alert?
We had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work.
Hours earlier, they were celebrating a big financial win for her real estate business.
She mentions they've had a cocktail before bed. She mentions that her son has night terrors and that she'd been asleep with him.
When I sleep with my kids, I always wake up and I go back in my own bed.
Mm-hmm. Where are your children now?
One's asleep in that room, 2 are awake with their ear to the door. I go out, I go out, please don't take them out.
Okay.
At one point, the officer asks if she would like to call anybody, and she mentions she wants to call her mom.
Here, you can use my phone.
I got a call. It was Corey. Said, Mom, you need to come up here.
Something's wrong with Eric. The police ambulance are here. I don't know what's happening.
I said, something's happened. She said, Eric.
Does he have any medical conditions or anything like that?
He has Lyme's disease.
Lyme's disease?
But nothing major.
So they're asking questions like, does he have any, health ailments?
So no heart problems or anything like that?
So while she's talking to the officers, she says that sometimes he takes a gummy to sleep, but she also tells them she's not sure whether he took one that night.
It's like a gummy, as in like a THC gummy? Okay. Does he have any history of illicit drug use or anything in the past year? No, never.
As I pull in the driveway, 3 cops come running at me, asking who I am. I went running through the house to get to Corey, and it was just devastating. She was in total shock. I had no idea, not only as a mother, what to do for her, but as a person, how to help a person in shock.
Oh my God.
I went and talked to the boys, and they're just confused. They're not crying because they don't know what's going on. They just know a lot of cops are there.
Corey Richens' mother, Lisa Darden, says that he got weekly allergy shots, and maybe that has something to do with his medical condition.
He didn't look good last night.
He looked pale last night, and I asked if you were okay, and he said yeah, but he was saying his chest was hurting.
I had seen him that day, and I said, oh my God, what is wrong with you? You look horrible.
For a moment, the deputy walks away from Corey Richens, and you can see a conversation between him, another officer, and an EMT.
I wonder if he had an aneurysm or something with all the blood. There's a lot of blood for some unknown reason. A little bit coming out as soon as we start doing compressions when the blood came out. So.
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
The amount of blood was sort of surprising to the paramedic, and this leads to the initial hypothesis of an aneurysm.
My husband's active. He didn't just die in his sleep. This is insane.
Eric was very athletic. You would never expect an aneurysm, but that's what they're telling us. They don't know, they're saying an aneurysm, and you just can't believe he's gone.
In the body cam footage, you actually hear Eric's sister, Katie, before you see her.
What happened?
We don't know. We went to bed.
She's moaning and she's screaming out, and it's the raw guttural pain that you hear when you've just learned that someone you love has died.
In the video, you see Katie take Corey and Eric's young boys upstairs and away from the turmoil.
But at one point, Katie even can hardly breathe.
Natural, okay? Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Okay, I gotta breathe. Oh my God, I gotta breathe. I just talked to him like a couple hours ago.
At 3:58 a.m., Eric Richens is officially declared dead, but it's also noted that he appears to have been dead for quite some time before they arrived at the residence.
The next thing is our detective and our medical examiner is going to respond to the location. They're going to do their investigation and document everything. And then most likely, because of his age, his health and everything else, most likely.
The county coroner's office has an obligation, a legal requirement really, to investigate forensically any unexpected death. Whenever you have a young man like this who dies mysteriously, you can bet they're going to do an autopsy.
This is the night of a tragic end, but the beginning of a mystery that will take years to unravel.
The night that Eric died, Corey says that they were celebrating. They were celebrating what was going to be her most ambitious purchase yet for her real estate business. A distressed mansion in Midway, Utah that she hoped to buy for millions, flip it, and sell it for millions more.
She was so excited about it and the possibilities for it.
This was a very big moment for Corey Richens. Corey grew up working for her aunt's cleaning company, cleaning the toilets of the rich people who lived in mansions in Park City. Corey would dream that one day she would be the one that owned the mansions and not the one cleaning the toilets. This was Corey's moment to say, look, I did it. I made something of myself, and now I'm on the other side. Corey grew up in a family that moved a lot.
My parents worked construction, so we would move every 2-3 months growing up. We weren't poor by any stretch, but we weren't wealthy by any stretch either. My parents did what they had to do to get by.
When she got to junior high, her family really made a home in Heber City, Utah. It's also part of Summit County. It's a beautiful mountain town. And there she finds a really close group of girlfriends.
We just had a really good core group of friends. And I mean, the text we'd get every weekend was, hey, where's the party at? And then we also played sports. And then we were in the same classes together. And we just kind of evolved from there.
She's on the cheer team. In high school, she's playing tennis. And she seems to have really found a home and belonging.
She was a tough cookie. Anybody said anything wrong about us, you could, kind of always count on Corey to handle it.
Corey and Eric met when Corey was working at a Home Depot.
Home Depot paid the best. It was brand new, it was in Park City, and it paid really well for cashiers.
He was coming into the Home Depot a lot because of his stonemasonry business, and they hit it off and started talking, and people remember, sparks flying and instant chemistry.
He was significantly older than her.
She just thought the world of Eric. Eric was it.
Eric grew up in Bountiful, Utah. Went to high school at Woods Cross. The Richens owned a cattle ranch in Summit County. And he grew up working on this ranch. His sisters rode horses, they had animals, they were outdoorsmen.
Eric was one of 3 children with 2 sisters, Amy and Katie, and he was very close to his mother who had died in 2018.
Eric grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormon Church. His dad shares that it was one of the most important things that they wanted to instill in their children was faith and religion. So much so that Eric went on a 2-year mission for the church to Mexico City, and then came back and started his stonemasonry business.
Eric was a very dynamic individual.
He worked hard, but he also played hard. He had ATVs, he camped, he explored.
Eric was a big-time hunter, go to Africa, big trophy hunting stuff.
They began dating. Corey became pregnant with their first child, and they married soon after.
The marriage is a backyard ceremony. Family and friends gather. Corey is about to walk down the aisle, and Eric's mother present her with a prenup. And the prenup says that his stonemasonry business belongs to him, and that the only way that she would benefit from that business would be if he were to die while they are married.
Corey was pretty distraught over it, but ultimately she signed it. She loved Eric, she wanted to marry Eric, so she went along to get along, I guess.
I don't think it's a secret that Eric's family, or at least parts of Eric's family, didn't approve of Corey.
It was a rough start at the beginning, and once that got passed, they had a good wedding.
Corey and Eric ended up having 3 boys in 4 years.
She planned that. She was a planner, and that was her plan. Corey was everything you'd probably want as a mom.
She loved her boys. Her boys are her world. And when she wasn't working, she was with her kids.
From Boy Scout leader to soccer to you name it, she's involved in everything.
Eric really, he was a dedicated dad.
He was a soccer coach for the boys.
My last memory of Eric was me in their living room playing soccer with his son, you know, and Eric was sitting in his chair, like sitting back like this, giggling, while his son kicked my ass in soccer, you know, and he was really proud of it.
Eric's business has become incredibly successful. It's $1 million business, C&E Masonry.
And they have a very affluent life. They're taking trips together.
My first cruise was with them.
They would go out to fancy restaurants. Yeah, they had money to spend.
At the beginning of all, Corey stayed home with the children, but at some point, Corey wanted more, and she started a real estate business.
In 2019, Corey starts K. Richens Realty, which is her home flipping business. That first year, Corey buys and resells a property to a family that says they found their dream home.
Guess who's homeowners? Me, and him, and me, and him, and me. We just bought a house!
Just 2 years later, Corey is managing 15 renovation projects.
Corey's making a very good living.
It's expanding quickly. She's buying a lot of properties, and by all accounts, it is very successful. This looks like the all-American perfect family. A beautiful home, a beautiful family, beautiful children, and 2 thriving businesses.
What's your first name? Yeah, let me talk to you.
Nobody ever thought Eric was gonna die.
Of course, Eric Richens, a dedicated father, has provided for his children. But this grieving widow is about to discover her future won't be quite what she thought.
Eric's sister, Amy, says this home isn't yours.
They're screaming back and forth. I stepped in between the two of them.
I learned the news about Eric passing on March 4th through a phone call. Why? What happened? What could have caused it? It was just surreal.
And just the day before, Corey says that she and Eric were toasting the purchase of her dream property, a $2.9 million mansion. And just hours later, Eric would be dead.
Eric was beloved in the community, and many people come and gather at the family home to sort of celebrate his life.
There were just constant people coming in and out of the house, paying their condolences. We were just, you know, reminiscing about Eric.
We were all just there to support Corey, keep the boys occupied, keep their minds sort of off of, you know, what happened.
We were literally talking about Eric the entire night and reason, dancing and listening to his favorite songs. One of our friends is shotgunning a beer.
Richard,
Yep.
And it's not the way everybody else may celebrate it, but that's how we did it, because that's what Eric would have done with us.
At one point, you know, they're playing music, and Cody Johnson's "Till You Can't" comes on, and this is Eric's favorite song.
I mean, it's an incredible song with a very obvious meaning. Live until you can't, you know, and to know that we just lost somebody so suddenly, it put things in perspective.
yeah, if you got a chance, take it.
Corey's dancing with her 3 sons, and Eric's sister Amy films the dance.
And there was this light that kind of projected around them, and she's like, I swear Eric's dancing with them right now. Like, it was special.
And it's this real moment of sort of solidarity between the 2 families.
But that solidarity appears to be short-lived.
The morning after that gathering, there is a dispute, an argument between Corey and Eric's sister, Amy. Corey realizes that Eric's will is in a safe.
She seemed a little adamant about getting the will, and she was pretty positive that it was in the safe, but she didn't know what the combination was.
Eric Richens' sister Amy is at the house, and a locksmith shows up to access the safe.
You just hear like this blood-curdling scream as I ran out into the garage. and Amy had seen a sign on a truck that said locksmith or something. She flipped out and told Corey, you know, you're not supposed to be getting into the safe.
And then Amy drops a bomb. She tells Corey that Eric had secretly set up his trust and will, and Corey was largely cut out.
They're screaming back and forth. I stepped in between the two of them. Eventually, the police showed up.
In the midst of all of this, Corey wants to fact check what's going on, and they call the estate planner. So the estate planner ends up confirming to Corey that right around 2020, Eric had created an estate and that his sister, Katie, was in charge of that and the executor.
He makes his sons the beneficiary of the trust. He puts the house in the trust.
And that's when those words of, it's not your home, came out. And Corey's like, it is my house. I've lived here for 10 years. You know, what are you talking about?
Amy told authorities that Corey punched her in the face and the neck. Corey is then arrested and charged with assault.
She ends up pleading no contest, but she is found guilty of assault.
To think this is happening 2 days after Eric's death, and then these two families have to see each other again at Eric's funeral?
The funeral itself, I think, went off very well, but you could already see the animosity between the two families. It's contentious.
Oh, the funeral was incredibly uncomfortable. Corey stood in one, and then his family stood in like another area. Yeah, it was a very obvious divide immediately, and they wouldn't talk to each other.
There really wasn't much reference to Corey. There wasn't a lot of love going on.
It was over-the-top, lavish casket. It was like a horse and buggy. It was grand. It was very country. It was just the most uncomfortable funeral I've ever been at. His 40th birthday was just a couple weeks after the funeral. Like, his clothes had already been taken down, and she wasn't wearing her wedding ring, and I thought that was a little odd. I mean, it wasn't even a month.
As the months passed, Corey filed a civil lawsuit against Eric's sister, Katie, disputing the trust.
And Corey seems to continue to adjust to life as a single mother and a businesswoman.
Corey talks a lot about how important routine is to getting through the process of grief. And so, you know, usually at nighttime, this is when you read to your children, and she was saying that they looked for something to read that would answer some of these questions, and she found nothing.
She said, I have looked everywhere, and I can't find a book on grieving for children. She said, I wonder if I could write one.
Corey Richins self-published a book called Are You With Me?
The first part of the book is actually written from the child's perspective, the little boy who's wondering if his dad is with him.
Corey actually used a ghostwriter in order to create this book.
Are you at my soccer game when I scored that goal for you? I looked for you in the crowd, but you weren't there. Did you see it?
And then later on in the book, it switches to the deceased father's perspective, and he sort of starts saying, yes, I am with you.
I am with you when you scored that goal for me. You couldn't hear me cheer for you, but I yelled and clapped as loud as I could, just like always.
Corey dedicates the book to my amazing husband and a wonderful father. And then there is a drawing of the family of 5. You see Corey and Eric together with their 3 children and the dog.
I will forever love you, my sweet baby, until we see each other again. Yes, I am with you.
In March 2023, Corey Richins goes on these local radio and TV stations talking about the book.
Start your move 2.
And good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
We got an email, wrote into the station. It was Corey saying that she had just written what she believed to be was the first book for kids about coping with grief, and that she would love the chance to share that on Good Things Utah.
My kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year.
And to make sense and process, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly.
What a shock this must be for this poor woman. My heart went out to her.
I'm new to all of this, so kind of doing all, research and reading books and things to try and understand, not only how to grieve as a widow, as a wife, but also, you know, with my kids, how to help them understand what just happened.
But the big shock happened a couple of days later when we get an anonymous email. And there's just one line, and it's in all capital letters with many exclamation marks at the end, and it says, "You know she killed her husband."
Thank you, Corey. Thank you.
While Corey has moved on with her life and is promoting her children's book about coping with grief, authorities have been digging into the circumstances surrounding Eric's death.
Were you first on the scene?
We were second.
And there was blood before they...
A little bit coming out as soon as we start doing compressions.
Originally, it was one of the EMTs on scene who suggests that maybe Eric had an aneurysm.
I wonder if he had an aneurysm or something with all the blood.
And I think that made a lot of sense to the family on scene right then, because what else would it be that would make a healthy 39-year-old man all of a sudden stop breathing in the middle of the night?
So law enforcement says that there will be an autopsy. They think it might have been an aneurysm, but they don't know.
For the people that knew Eric, the autopsy was absolutely shocking.
The initial autopsy report comes back, and it's drug intoxication, fentanyl, as the cause of death.
5 times the amount of fentanyl that could kill anyone.
Eric did not do drugs, not to my understanding, you know, and Corey was saying the same thing, so it was just baffling.
They also found that it was not medical grade fentanyl. So this is nothing that was prescribed by a doctor.
This would have been, you know, drugs off the street, the type of drugs that you would procure on a corner and don't necessarily know the origins of.
The autopsy report jumpstarts a criminal investigation because this is not a natural death. This is either an accidental overdose or someone killed Eric.
Now police officers realize they have to find the origin of the drug.
Police get a search warrant to search the Richens' home for illegal drugs.
Investigators go in, they seize Corey's electronics, Eric's electronics, and they search the house for anything that could possibly have traces of fentanyl.
But they don't find any fentanyl.
During this search, Corey is stopped by then lead detective Jamie Woody, and at that moment, Corey says what everybody else is saying, that Eric doesn't do drugs, that she's shocked by the cause of death.
Corey Richens talks to the chief medical examiner and essentially has a bunch of questions, and she goes down a list of the various items that were found in the stomach contents.
The third one, the acetyl, I don't know how you say that.
Acetyl fentanyl.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just a variant of fentanyl that is usually only present in the setting of illicitly manufactured fentanyl.
Illicit manufactured, like a pharmacy?
No, like fentanyl that's manufactured by drug cartels as opposed to by pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, good Lord.
It's pretty clear she's kind of reading from the report and asking individual questions about each part.
I was just trying to figure out, you know, if we found out anything new.
Definitely, death from fentanyl intoxication, and we still don't know how he got it into him.
Yeah, and I mean, is that anything you could ever find out?
When the toxicology report comes back, Eric's family comes forward to law enforcement and says, well, we have some concerns about the toxicology report. Eric didn't do drugs.
The Richens family was immediately suspicious that Corey had a role in Eric's death.
According to Eric's family, while it seemed like Corey and Eric were flying high, when he died, it was a very different reality.
Eric discovered actually in 2020 that Corey had taken out a loan to help her business and did so without telling him.
Corey had taken out a $250,000 line of credit against the home, which Eric solely owned and had no idea about.
That made them all start to be very concerned with Corey's financial situation, and that is actually what caused him to change the trust, because he wanted to make sure his children were taken care of.
The family says that when Eric finds out, he visits a divorce attorney. I think it's like, how can you deceive your spouse like that? When you own a home, the idea that you're going to take out a line of credit, that they're never gonna realize this, and you're somehow gonna go out and spend $250,000 and they're just never gonna get that that's what was going on behind the scenes, it's pretty shocking.
They end up going to counseling and they do not separate. But there is this idea, she's lied about their finances. Even if there's the facade of things being good within the marriage, there's still a real permanent rift between the couple, and the trust has been broken there.
But as it turns out, allegations of financial crimes are not the only evidence investigators are uncovering.
A year after Eric's death, Corey's finances are not looking good at all. She thought she was going to be getting an inheritance, and now the weight of her debt is bearing down on her.
She's in a lot of trouble here. She owes a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars.
It was hard for her that year, financially and emotionally. Her kids, were crying at night because their dad is gone. And she has Eric's family who are blaming her for his death.
Emotionally, she kind of seemed like she's hanging on by a thread. Corey was also trying to run this business that she was doing, and she just seemed really stressed out.
One of Corey's biggest financial burdens was this mansion she had purchased.
A luxurious piece of property on the most beautiful land.
She buys it for close to $3 million. But at this point, the mansion is far from finished.
Corey Richens commissioned this YouTube video of the house construction. It even included a virtual view of the planned luxe amenities.
Corey had talked about turning the Midway Mansion into an event space where people could have weddings. It needed a lot of work, estimated to be a couple million.
Corey is allegedly making all of this work through hard money loans. And these are loans that are short term, they cost more, they tend to be riskier.
But Corey didn't have money from Eric's estate to help, and eventually lost the mansion to foreclosure.
The fallout from Corey's financial strain allegedly ends up harming one of her best friends, a woman named Chelsea Barney.
Corey's been helping her best friend buy a home, her first home. So she says, look, I'll get the loan, you'll sign the deed, the home will be yours, and you can pay the mortgage each month. She was a waitress and a manager at a restaurant, and she had saved all of her tip money for years.
She gave Corey $45,000 as a down payment.
She was always on time with her payment. And so when all of a sudden she was getting notices that her home might be in trouble, she called and asked for a copy of the deed.
Essentially, Chelsea had found out that the deed was never properly filed with the county.
She never was the owner of the home.
The house is foreclosed on, Chelsea and her family are evicted, and to add insult to injury, all this money she saved up to buy this home, it's gone.
And there's another family who also say their dealings with Corey did not end well.
We just bought a house!
Taryn and Alec Wright buy this home for their family. It's been remodeled, there's a view of the mountains, it has a great yard.
But once they were in that home, they discovered a major problem.
They claim they find mold in the walls, and they say there was water coming in and that everyone in the family got sick. Nosebleeds, asthma, really unpleasant stuff.
Corey denied that she had any knowledge of any problems with the home and that the home had been inspected prior to their closing on it.
The Wrights filed a lawsuit and told 2020 they lost their house to foreclosure, saying they've been financially ruined by the cost of a long-term temporary rental while still paying for that home.
Meanwhile, there are people who are starting to say out loud what only a few knew, that Eric had gotten ill in the past, and he suspected Corey was behind it.
Eric and Corey were on a trip to Greece in 2019.
They were out having dinner one night, and everyone was ordering drinks. Eric had just recently got Lyme's disease from a hunting trip. He's taking medication for it. On that medication, you're not allowed to have alcohol. It will make you very, very sick. Eric ordered a virgin drink. When they brought it over, he tasted it and said that he thought that there was alcohol in it. He started not feeling well, and they ran up to the hotel room.
He called his sister Katie and told her that he thought that Corey had tried to poison him.
I don't believe Eric said that. I don't believe he ever said that. They were in a restaurant when he got sick, so the only one serving him was a waitress.
Then actually on Valentine's Day of 2022, so only weeks before his death, Corey had ordered a sandwich from a local diner.
The server answered the phone and a to-go order was placed, a Bald Mountain Bagel sandwich, which is just a toasted bagel with bacon, egg, and cheese, avocado, and sliced tomato. And 12 minutes later, Corey came in and picked it up and paid for it.
When she left the sandwich for him, she left a note, basically just saying, "Happy Valentine's Day, I love you."
After just a single bite, Eric seemed to believe he was having an allergic reaction. He used his son's EpiPen, took some Benadryl, and went to sleep. And when he woke up, he texted friends, "You almost lost me this time. I think she might have poisoned me."
And police are about to learn just where that poison could be coming from.
B-Speed.
Corey came to me about a year after she said her husband had died. All she had said was that he passed away and she was ready for some new family photos. So she wanted to get her hair done to look cute in the pictures with her sons. I was really impressed with how she was handling that situation with her little boys and how much she was doing with her life. Corey spent 5 or 6 hours in my chair. We did a full color on her and then we did her extension install after that. I think she ended up spending around $2,900.
It's been a year since Eric Richens' death, and Corey is moving on with life. But Eric's family, however, is frustrated. They say they're not seeing progress in the investigation, and they're dealing with the back and forth lawsuits over the estate. So they decide to hire a private investigator.
This PI pulls phone records, looks at thousands of text messages, pulls electronics, gets cell phone data.
So when the private investigator gets into these phone records, he discovers that there are essentially 3 people that Corey is communicating with all the time. One is Eric, the other is her mother, and the third person is a woman named Carmen Lauber.
This is between the months right before and right after Eric Richens dies. So why is Corey talking to Carmen Lauber so much?
Carmen worked for my sister cleaning houses and cleaning the fix and flips. And Corey would call her and say, "Hey, I need you to go to this address, clean this house."
This woman has a checkered past, including a whole bunch of drug stuff.
With the information that the private investigators gathered, he's forwarding all of that to the Summit County Sheriff's Office.
A new lead detective is put on the case, Detective Jeff O'Driscoll, and his theory is to start over, start fresh.
Carmen is in a court-ordered drug program, and Detective O'Driscoll takes the opportunity to search her trash. He finds drug paraphernalia, and that's a violation. Now he's got probable cause to search her home. Not only do they find enough evidence to bring drug charges, they find a gun, and she's not allowed to have one since she's a convicted felon. And they notice something that stops them in their tracks. They're looking at a wall full of inspirational sayings that she's posted, and they see, taped to a mirror, a copy of Eric's obituary.
At this point, they have really zeroed in on Corey as being, the prime suspect to Eric's passing, and they need somebody to kind of connect those dots. Without Carmen, police really didn't have much of a case.
So can Carmen tell them if Corey had any connection to the fentanyl?
Write down something as far as you remember it right now, and then we can work on the details as we continue to talk about it, as we check phone records, as we, do all our part, our side to corroborate what you're saying, right?
Hey, now everything I just told you, I probably remember what order I told you in.
It's okay, and that's fine, because you know what? We want to make sure we get the right story. And so the way you're remembering it is, is all you can give us. You can't make something up that you don't remember, right?
Right.
She tells police that not only has Corey asked her to get fentanyl, but she did so on 2 separate occasions, and she even said things like, the first batch wasn't strong enough.
The thought was insinuated that she wanted you to get something that somebody could die from.
I know one thing, that when we got the one, it wasn't dark enough. I don't even know how fentanyl really goes.
Carmen explained she got one set of drugs sometime in February, and then was asked to get stronger stuff, and then got another dose of drugs a second time around.
So Carmen's facing prosecution and years of prison time.
The only exception to that, and the only thing that they're willing to kind of help you out with, is if you can help us out with this.
And by help, he means like, give us the details that will ensure Corey gets convicted of murder.
Oh my God.
This is a serious case, Carmen. I'm not
that
trying
is
to...
way more of my...
I know.
You got Carmen, who's looking at 25 years to life for drug charges and gun charges. She's going to tell the cops whatever they want to hear. And they're making a plea deal.
The goal is to convict Corey for an aggravated murder. These parallel drug investigations, those aren't a priority.
Carmen says her dealer was Robert Crozier. He's already in custody for other drug crimes, and he's also detoxing. He says that he and Carmen would meet at a gas station where he would sell her the drugs. Carmen says she would hide the drugs at one of the houses Corey was trying to flip. Crozier says it wasn't a regular thing.
Yeah, I met her just 2 times. I think I talked to her a couple more times after, but just to see, you know what I mean? Hey, because somebody's spending, you know what I mean? $500-600
Is that what 30 would run about $500 or $600?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just the drug sales themselves, it's the timing.
There were 30 text messages exchanged between Carmen and Corey on Valentine's Day 2022, the day of that infamous sandwich.
And the other date is February 26th, which is right before Eric's death.
Now law enforcement has the drug link through Carmen, and they have the financial information.
Corey Richens was in massive debt. She was trying to funnel money back into her own real estate and house flipping business.
You add this all up, and it's finally enough for police to make their move.
A woman who wrote a children's book about grief after the death of her husband now faces charges for his murder.
Corey Richens is charged with 1 count of aggravated murder and 3 counts of possession of narcotics with intention to distribute.
I woke up in the morning to headlines of Utah mom and children's grief book author arrested and charged with murder.
It was shocking. It was unbelievable.
I just couldn't fathom it. Like, not Corey. Why her? Like, it just became this huge story because she wrote that children's book.
They are trying to ruin and convict an innocent mother.
The simplest answer is often the correct one. It was most likely an accidental overdose.
I will take it to my grave that Corey did not do this. I too believe it's an accidental overdose.
For Corey Richens, she's either victim or killer. There is nothing in between. Is she a widow who had lost her husband and the father of her children tragically, or did she plan this all out to get from under some massive debt?
In my experience, money and love are two of the most powerful motivators for a murder. Now, police know about the money, and there may be a romantic angle as well. If Corey wasn't with Eric on Valentine's Day, and she wasn't, who was she with?
My kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year.
And to make sense and process, I'm sure.
Right now, we have the arrest of a Utah mom who wrote a children's book about grief after her husband's death. She has now been charged with killing him.
I'm new to all of this as a widow, as a wife, but also, you know, with my kids.
I'm thinking she's just powering through. She's trying her best, maybe not to cry, maybe not to get too emotional. Toxicology report found 5 times the lethal dosage of fentanyl in his system.
This last page, particularly poignant. I will forever love you, my sweet baby, until we see each other again. Yes, I am with you.
Written as though it's in the father's words for their boys.
You are an amazing woman, and we thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this and touching the lives of others.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. So,
thank you, Corey.
guys.
Thank you. All right, GTU is back with more.
State prosecutors say they do have enough evidence against Corey Richens to proceed with a trial.
The imminent charge of murder, allegedly at this point, but still, naturally, you're thinking, can I believe what she said?
On May 8th, 2023, Corey is arrested and charged with the aggravated murder of her husband, as well as several counts of possession of illicit drugs with the intent to distribute.
Finding that out was such a shock. I mean, talking about this now, it still blows my mind.
This could all very well be the perfect crime. A storybook ending where she thought she couldn't get caught.
It's a story that resonates because it's sort of this idea that she's two very different people, a Jekyll and Hyde situation. She was so empathetic at first glance, and then the story becomes much more sinister.
In a June 2023 hearing where Corey's gonna find out if she makes bail or not, she appears in street clothes, but she is in shackles. And she has this look of confidence on her face, almost as if she thinks this is still going to go her way.
Prosecutors call 3 witnesses to testify as to why Corey Richens should not be released pending prosecution.
And the defendant came to the door and wrote a check from her business for $1,300 for the purchase of the fentanyl.
The initial bail hearing had a forensic accountant going into her finances. It went over the phone records and some of her searches on her phone after her husband's death.
During the bail hearing, the cell phone expert presented evidence that prosecutors said was a sign of consciousness of guilt.
Consciousness of guilt can be virtually anything that a criminal defendant does that is consistent with them understanding that they're guilty. Some of the more interesting internet searches included luxury prisons for the rich in America, can cops uncover deleted messages, iPhone, if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as, and finally, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl?
Those internet searches did not come until after Corey had been given a search warrant that was executed on her home. That search warrant laid out that they believed that Eric had died from a lethal dose of fentanyl, that she had murdered him with it. And so, you know, to now say, well, she searched it, so it's the consciousness of guilt, I think it's human nature. Someone hands you something and says, hey, we think you poisoned them with fentanyl, and you're like, I don't even know what a lethal dose of fentanyl is. What do? We Google search.
Prosecutors argue that the motivation behind Eric Richens' death is that Corey Richens was in massive debt.
Being bad with money does not make you a murderer.
The defense makes the argument that the prosecution has no case because they have no way of showing how the drugs ultimately got into Eric's system.
They went through the home and they found absolutely no forensic evidence to substantiate their allegation that she must have given Eric fentanyl in this drink.
But perhaps the most compelling argument was made by Eric's sister, Amy Richens, during her victim's impact statement.
Eric was a family man who always strove to be the absolute best father and husband. I go through the terrible sequence of events. I wonder when he realized he was in mortal danger. This last year has been a living hell for our family. We have watched as Corey has paraded around portraying herself as a grieving widow and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother.
But the circumstances of this case weigh soundly against granting pretrial release of any kind.
Since Corey was arrested, she's been held in the Summit County Jail. Corey not only has been separated from her children, at this point she lost custody of her children.
The state of Utah takes her kids away, even though she's presumed innocent, because Utah has a law that allows the court to do that when one spouse is suspected of causing the death of the other spouse.
And it's while she's in jail that authorities make what appears to be a stunning discovery.
Deputies did what's called tossing her cell, where they go in, they essentially perform a search, and they found a letter that the prosecution believed to be very, very significant in the case.
Since her arrest, Corey Richens, the aspiring writer, is being held in Utah Summit County Jail, and she's at it again.
During a sweep of Corey's cell, an officer uncovers a 4-page letter. At the top of the first page, it says, "Walk the dog," with an exclamation point. And prosecutors argue that this letter is a message for Corey's mother to relay to her brother Ronnie what he needs to say to help get her off.
It reads in part, "Here's what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would probably have to testify to this. Eric told Ronnie he gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico from the workers at the ranch. Reword this however he needs to make the point with Mexico and drugs."
Prosecutors say this is evidence of witness tampering, of influencing a person's testimony that could potentially take the stand in her case, and providing a story that is alternative to how Eric had gone to Mexico and possibly obtained drugs while there.
Of course, that's hugely significant from the perspective of detectives and the prosecution.
I mean, she just explained to me that it was some fairy tale book that was loosely based on what's going on, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that makes it very obvious that it's not true.
Corey has always maintained that the Walk the Dog letter was part of a greater manuscript. Not only was it attorney-client communication, it was also attorney work product. Is this damaging? Does she admit that she committed murder in it? Absolutely not.
So the question becomes whether a jury will see this as, Corey insists, as a fictional manuscript, or further evidence of her guilt.
First with the death of her husband and this children's book, Are You With Me? And now with this 4-page letter, you see Corey writing herself into the plot. It is Corey's own written word that prosecutors keep coming back to as evidence that she is, in fact, at the center of this.
The Camas mom, accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book about grief, is facing more criminal charges.
So in March 2024, the prosecution amended their complaint to include an allegation of attempted murder.
This is the attempted murder charge for the poisoned Valentine's Day sandwich that Eric ate just weeks before his death.
Eric supposedly saying that he thinks his wife is trying to poison him it's absolutely absurd.
And the heat is about to be turned up even higher on Corey. With all the media coverage on her case, someone was watching. And that someone reached out to Eric Richens' family, wanting to clear a guilty conscience.
That someone is 41-year-old Josh Grossman, who Corey had hired as a handyman at a home that she was renovating.
Authorities learned that Grossman and Corey had been carrying on a years-long affair. According to investigators, the lovers texted almost daily.
I want you today, every day, not just sexually, but physically, mentally, every day. When I wake up, I do want a future together.
So in addition to the financial motive here, we also have a totally separate motive, and that is she's having an affair where she's repeatedly communicating with this man, talking about how much she wants to be with him and how much she loves him.
Among the frequent text exchanges, in February of 2022, Corey wrote, "If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. I love you."
You know, I'll acknowledge the timing of the texts are not ideal. You know, is this evidence of murder? No. But is it one of those things that may weigh in the back of a juror's mind when they're thinking about how to weigh all this other evidence? I think that absolutely becomes the case.
We're following breaking news out of Summit County for you. The judge granted a request from the defense team to withdraw from her case.
Suddenly, defense attorney Sky Lazaro withdraws from the case, citing a conflict of interest involving her law firm.
And this preliminary hearing is a critical right that every single...
Replacing Lazaro is public defender Kathy Nestor and co-counsel Wendy Lewis. Together, the defense attorneys have more than 30 years of experience.
Whenever legal counsel changes in a case, this will heavily stall any sort of outcome because now a new attorney has to come on, build a rapport with Corey, and learn the case inside out.
In May 2024, just days after her new lawyers are appointed, Corey makes her first public statement in an audio recording released to ABC News.
The world has yet to hear who I really am, what I've really done, or what I really didn't do. What I've really done is protect Eric at all costs. What I really didn't do is murder my husband. I could not and would not ever do that to Eric, or anyone for that matter. I'm asking the world to give me a chance.
And Corey Richins will have that chance in court. While the narcotics charges were dropped, she has pleaded not guilty to the remaining charges, including 2 counts of insurance fraud. One of those charges alleges that Corey took out a life insurance policy on Eric without his knowledge.
When you throw in a financial motive, that's big, that's huge. That she needed Eric Richins dead, that's financial motive is massive. It's big. But then you throw in an affair, you throw in a love story. Now you're talking multiple motives.
The state first has to prove that he was murdered. You know, that's step one. And they've got to be able, if I'm the jury, I mean, I want to know how. You know, you can't just say he died, she was there, it must have been her, you know, because she had an affair. They're going to have a hard time connecting those dots.
All eyes on Utah this morning as the Corey Richins murder trial begins.
The murder trial of Corey Richins is now underway.
Nearly 3 years after her arrest, Corey Richins is in court right now for day one of that trial.
We'll be inside of that courtroom all week, bringing you the latest.
I knew that this trial would be big. I didn't know it was going to be this big.
This story, just in a quiet community that doesn't have things like this happening, is obviously a pretty big deal.
This is a small courthouse, sort of off the beaten path in the beautiful mountains of Utah, near Park City, Utah.
Most people expect that there will be 12 people on a jury, but in this case, there were 8 jury members, 6 men, 2 women.
My name is Laura, and I was the jury foreperson in the Corey Richins murder trial. Before being selected as a juror, I had heard or read just a couple headlines, but I never really looked at stories. I really knew nothing about the case.
Corey looks nervous. She's worried. She doesn't have that same confidence she did a few years ago.
While the situation appears tough for Corey, she still has her supporters.
I'll be in the courtroom right there with her family, supporting her every second, every minute, every day, as long as it takes. She will beat this. Mark my words.
All right, we'll now proceed with opening statements.
The prosecutor, Brad Bloodworth, is very direct. He gets right to business.
In opening statements, the prosecutor had a laundry list of motives as to why Corey would have killed her husband.
The evidence will prove that on the day that Eric died, Corey Richens owed over $4.5 million to over 20 different lenders, that Corey Richens was chronically unhappy in her marriage, that Corey Richens murdered Eric for his money and to get a fresh start at life.
On the defense side, they start with someone else's voice, Corey's voice, the 911 call she made the night Eric died.
911, I just had the emergency. My husband's not breathing. He's cold. And he's not breathing?
Those were the sounds of a wife becoming a widow.
The defense urged the jurors to focus on the 6 hours leading up to Eric's death and not 6 years prior.
So those 6 hours, somewhere in that time, Eric Richens died. Somewhere in that time, he ingested a fatal dose of fentanyl. What you're never going to hear is how that fentanyl got inside of him, because there is zero evidence of that.
The witnesses that the state started with were powerful.
Your Honor, the state calls Katie Richens Benson.
They called Eric's sister, Katie, to the stand.
That you received a phone call about Eric.
Yes, it was early in the morning.
Who called you?
My dad did.
What did he say?
It's not easy. He was screaming and crying and said, Eric's not breathing, Eric's not breathing. Sorry, guys. This was the worst day of my life. I'm sorry.
The state needs to convince the jury that Corey purchased that lethal dose of fentanyl with the intention to kill.
When Carmen takes the stand, all eyes are on her. She makes or breaks this case for the state.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir.
Remember, Carmen Lauber was facing a lot of trouble with the law, but now she's testifying with immunity. She made a deal with prosecutors if she tells the truth about how Corey Richens purchased fentanyl from her.
She's pretty much getting a out of jail free pass for her testimony.
She comes clean. The first part of her testimony is essentially Carmen Lauber laying out all of her sins for the entire world.
Have you ever sold drugs?
Yes.
Do you have a criminal history involving drugs?
Yes.
Carmen became very emotional on the stand, and yes, she was given a deal for her testimony, but if you believe her, she insists that isn't the only reason that she's doing this. She says she's trying to right a wrong for her role in all of this.
Did you ask Corey Richens about Eric's death?
Yes, I did.
What did you ask her?
I said, please tell me these pills were not for him. When they had mentioned that it was from an overdose, that hit hard. Only for the fact that if that's what happened, I needed to step up and take accountability of my part in this that happened and what I was asked for.
Defense attorneys love witnesses like Carmen because she has a criminal record. They are going to go after her on her credibility, especially about the drug charges.
And you lied about it.
Yes.
All right.
That's what addicts do when you're using.
That's true. Addicts lie. All right.
Active addicts.
Next, the state calls the person they say put those drugs in Carmen's hands, Robert Crozier. Remember, he's the one prosecutors say sold her the fentanyl that killed Eric.
Were you selling pills in late 2021 and early 2022?
Selling Roxy's then, yes.
But on cross-examination, the defense points out that he had changed his story and is now saying those pills weren't fentanyl.
When you initially agreed with detectives that you might have sold fentanyl, you were high, you were coming down, and you don't remember saying that specifically. True?
That is correct, yes.
All this testimony was crucial for attempting to piece together the how. But what was really mind-blowing was the why. And that testimony came from Corey's longtime friends.
Becky Lloyd is someone that was a friend of Corey and Eric, and someone that ended up working at C&E Masonry. Becky testifies that there was an evening in December during Christmas time that Corey and Becky started talking and having a bit of a heart-to-heart.
She talked about how she was feeling trapped. She was feeling like there wasn't an easy way forward out of the marriage. And she said that in many ways it would be better if he were dead.
Corey's lawyers pounce, challenging Becky's memory.
A couple of weeks after Eric died, you gave an interview about this conversation you and Corey had.
Yes.
And isn't it fair that in that first interview, you never mentioned anything about saying it would be better off if Eric was dead, did you?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Your Honor, the state calls Allie Stakings.
Allie Staking is called to the stand. This is Corey's best friend, someone she's known since middle school.
I've known I was going to take the stand for 4 years now, and it's been a nightmare. There was a lot of emotions in walking in the courtroom, and then seeing Corey, it felt like I was about to betray her going on the stand, and I didn't like that feeling.
Are you one of her best friends?
Yes. Yeah, I was, yeah. When I was asked on the stand if she was my best friend or not, I don't know, because I'm now learning a completely different side of this person that I knew and loved for the last 20 years.
Allie should be a strong witness for the prosecution. They want her to tell the jury about a conversation she had with Eric about that infamous Valentine's Day sandwich, but it sort of backfires on them.
He said that he thought that Corey had tried to poison him, but it was more of a funny story. It was like an allergic reaction is what we had thought it was. We were all laughing.
And that past laughter has now turned to loss.
I wish I could say it was nice to see my friend, but I miss my friend, but things are different now.
Having your best friend take the stand is one thing.
Your Honor, the state calls Robert Josh Grossman.
But when your ex-lover walks into the courtroom, well, that's just a whole other level.
Mr. Grossman, you need a minute or two?
I don't know what I need.
Please have a seat. Mr. Bloodworth, the state's next witness, please.
The most anticipated witness the state is about to call, it's a bombshell.
Your Honor, the state calls Robert Josh Grossman.
Josh Grossman is the man that Corey was having an affair with. She said she was in love with him.
And he's the one who wrote those text messages to Corey.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury?
The swearing in of a witness is usually a pretty routine thing in a courtroom, but not this one.
While he's being sworn in, they're asking if he's going to be honest. He doesn't know how to answer it.
Sir, have a seat for me if you don't mind.
I've never seen this moment before, where the judge has to explain what he needs to do.
Mr. Grossman, do you understand the difference between what's true and what's not true?
I do.
And then Josh says, okay, I understand. Yes, I'm going to be honest in my answers. And right away, Josh has our attention.
Sir, do you know Corey Richards?
I do.
And why did you move to Utah?
To work with her, help her flip houses.
Josh is quiet. He has this southern accent. He's a redhead, like Eric.
He served in the military, including combat in Iraq.
Eric came from an affluent ranching family, and Josh was a man from South Carolina who was essentially couch surfing.
She took care of me, you know. I lived for free. She gave me money whenever I needed it. You know, I liked her, so I'd work for free.
His body is slouched. He fidgets.
During that time that you were romantically involved with Miss Richens, did you love her?
Yes.
During that time, did you feel that she loved you?
I think she did.
So this, of course, gives prosecutors more than just a financial incentive for Eric's death.
The prosecution introduced a series of text messages between Josh and Corey. They put them up on the screen for a painfully long period of quiet time, allowing everybody to read them.
They were sad. They were very corny at times. He said, you know, I tend to fall head over heels in love with someone. Corey seemed a little less authentic, like she was kind of leading him on.
I want to know everything about you. It's part of being in love.
There's something specific you want to know? I will be up all night wondering, babe.
The text ranged from poetic confessions of love, almost had like a middle school feeling about it.
I love you. I love talking to you, being with you. I don't have that in my marriage, and I really enjoy my relationship and love for you. But you're right. We both know this love triangle can't go on forever.
He looks so uncomfortable as the world reads his private text messages.
I love you. K, kind. O, outgoing. U, unique. R, romantic. I, inches away from signing her divorce papers and falling madly in love with her soulmate.
Too late. I have already fallen. Night.
There's this moment where he starts crying.
I'm watching this and wondering, what is the jury thinking right now?
We couldn't talk about it. You could see in people's faces, in their eyes, like, ugh. That was heartbreaking.
Josh presented himself as very sincere and genuine, sad, brokenhearted. It was kind of devastating to watch him on the stand.
The court, I think, was very patient with him.
Do you need a minute or two?
I don't know what I need.
Let's just start with that. Why don't we take a pause for a moment.
The text between Josh and Corey evolved. Corey sort of suggesting to Josh her dream life, which would be to live with him in the guest home of the Midway Mansion and run a event center together and raise children together.
I have a crazy dream. I divorce and come up with millions and millions. We buy Midway and live in guest house and rent out the huge house as a big event center. $15,000 a day. Raise some kids, have a little farm. Deal?
You see all of these exchanges, and they contextualize what that relationship was.
And then Corey sends her boyfriend a plea in the form of a text, and that's less than 48 hours before Eric is found dead.
She texts roughly, hang in until Friday. Well, what was Friday? Friday was the day Eric Richens died.
Life is going to be different, I promise. Can I try Friday? Give me a few days. Hang in there until then, please.
The relationship between Josh and Corey just fizzled out. It was in the weeks after Eric passed away.
He testifies that he and Corey take a drive, they stop, and they sit in her car and talk.
Josh testified that Corey asked him a very important question, perhaps a very revealing question.
What sort did she ask?
She asked if I had ever killed anybody.
And was that specific to killed anybody while serving in Iraq?
Right.
Did you respond?
I did.
Did she ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Sir, what was that follow-up question?
She asked me how it made me feel or something along those lines.
Grossman's dramatic and emotional testimony comes to a close, and then something utterly mind-blowing unfolds in the courtroom with the defense team as they are about to present their case.
Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, what's the plan?
Ready to go.
Who's defense counsel's first witness?
Can we have just a minute?
Yeah.
We have a couple of options.
Understood.
The prosecution's case took 13 days, and the defense's case was expected to go 7 to 10 days.
Corey's defense attorneys are whispering to each other back and forth, and it seems like they're trying to decide who to call first. But that is not what we got.
Your Honor, actually at this time, the defense intends to rest.
They said they were calling no one and also rested. It was an absolute shock.
I was very surprised that there was no defense.
So when the defense rested without presenting any witnesses, my mouth, I think, dropped open. There has to be another side of the story, and we can fill in the little holes. And then when they didn't call anyone, I was shocked.
Why would Corey Richins' defense rest without calling anyone? They may believe the prosecution didn't make out their case, that having any witness on the stand wouldn't make sense because they've already won their case.
Do you understand that you have the right to testify at trial?
Yes, I do.
Are you following your attorney's advice and waiving your right to testify at trial?
Yes, I am.
Prosecution and the defense have presented their closing arguments. Judge Mrazek instructs the jury, and court's dismissed. Then, on the same day that the trial ends, and just within a few hours, there's word from the court.
Okay, I just received some news that a verdict is in.
No way.
If you feel overcome with emotion, just look down. We cannot have any outward reaction. Mark?
Yeah.
I told my kids early on that Eric had died, and my kids were devastated. I said along the way, sometimes it looks like Corey might have done it, but and then my kids would say, well, did she? And I'd say, I don't think so, but it sometimes looks like it.
There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Corey is innocent. I know my little sister. She loves her boys way too much to take their father away from them.
State of Utah versus Corey Richins. Ms. Richins is present.
After deliberating for just under 3 hours, the jury informs the court they've come to an agreement.
The court is informed that the jury has reached a verdict. Would you please hand the verdict form to the deputy? Ms. Richins, please stand. Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder.
Corey Richins is found guilty on all counts.
The entire 3 hours was constant, robust, electrifying discussion. There were some people who were sort of on the fence with some of the elements, like they felt that she was guilty, but maybe the state didn't meet the burden. And so we focused on what some of those issues were. They gave them pause, and then we all discussed at length, and that helped us kind of come to the conclusion, and it helped people jump off the fence. To convict a woman of murder was absolutely heartbreaking.
Corey's friend, Allie Staking, watched the verdict live online.
Guilty.
Eric was my friend too. I didn't choose Corey over Eric, but I've lost both of them. She was somebody that meant a lot to me, that her family meant a lot to me, and they meant a lot to my kids. And it's a loss. Nobody wins in this.
After the verdict is read, Eric's family and friends gather outside of the courthouse and embrace each other.
Justice is served. Yep. Justice.
4 years ago, our family lost the brightest light. Eric is deeply loved and missed every single day. We are grateful to everyone who has worked tirelessly to bring justice for Eric. Our focus is now on honoring Eric's life and supporting his boys as we all continue to heal. Thank you all for being here.
In a statement to ABC News, the Richens family wrote that the justice system has now fairly run its course, and we believe the jury's verdict was just and accurate. There is a hole in our family that cannot be filled, but now at least we have definitive closure. Corey Richens will return to that courtroom to learn her sentence on May 13th, which is no ordinary day. That would have been Eric Richens' 44th birthday. She faces up to life in prison. And her legal troubles are far from over.
She's facing a whole other criminal indictment with multiple counts of mortgage fraud, money laundering, forgery, bad checks. These are serious allegations.
One of the real tragedies in this case is Eric and Corey's kids. Their father tragically passed away. Their mother's parental rights have been terminated. She has forever lost her children. Those children have been adopted by one of Eric's sisters.
There are 3 little boys at the heart of this.
Just love. They have a lot of love surrounding them. They're great boys.
Despite his detailed confession and admissions made to his wife during recorded jail. Telephone conversations, he initially entered a plea of not guilty. His defense, team attempted to suppress the interrogation recordings, arguing that as a
loving dad,
native Spanish speaker,
he had so
he
much
should have
more
been
life to
provided
live.
an interpreter
And he wanted
despite
so much for his
his
boys.
demonstrated
remember
fluency in
just how much he loved
English
them.
throughout the interview. The court denied the motion, finding that his constitutional rights had been fully respected. In January of 2022, rather than proceeding with a lengthy and painful trial, Fuentes Flores agreed to a slow plea, a legal procedure where the judge reviews the extensive evidence and renders a verdict. The court found him guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While the legal resolution brought an end to the judicial process, the pain of Nancy's absence remains a permanent reality for her family and community. Amanda continues to run the salon, carrying on her mother's legacy of warmth and connection. She and her daughter ride Nancy's beloved horse, Montana, keeping her memory alive in the quiet beauty of the Paso Robles countryside. As we transition our analytical focus from the golden hills of California to the majestic, snow-capped mountains of Summit County, Utah, we encounter another deeply troubling study in criminal psychology. In the case of Carlo Fuentes Flores, we observed a perpetrator whose violent impulses erupted from a hidden personal life, ultimately exposed by the objective reality of digital tracking. In our next case, we examine a different and perhaps more complex psychological profile, an individual who allegedly sought to construct an elaborate public narrative of grief and tragedy to conceal a calculated and financially motivated crime. The mountain community of Summit County, Utah, is known for its affluent residences world-class ski resorts, and serene natural environment. It is a place where family values, community solidarity, and professional success are highly esteemed. Within this setting, Eric and Corey Richens appeared to embody the ideal of the American dream. Eric Richens was a 39-year-old stonemason who had built a highly successful business, C&E Masonry, raised in a devout family belonging to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Eric was a man of deep faith, strong work ethic, and an intense passion for the outdoors. He was a dedicated father to his 3 young sons, coaching their soccer teams, taking them camping, and sharing his love for the rugged Utah wilderness. Corey Richens was a bright, ambitious woman who had risen from humble beginnings to establish her own real estate and house-flipping business, K. Richens Realty. She was known as a devoted mother, actively involved in her children's schools, sports, and community events. Together, the couple enjoyed a highly affluent lifestyle, purchasing a beautiful home and taking frequent vacations. However, beneath this pristine exterior, serious financial and marital tensions were developing. Corey's business ambitions had grown significantly, leading her to undertake increasingly risky and expensive renovation projects. Among her most ambitious endeavors was the purchase of a partially completed multi-million-dollar mansion in Midway, Utah, which she envisioned transforming into a luxury event venue. To fund these ventures, Corey began securing large, high-interest loans, commonly referred to as hard money loans, which placed an immense financial strain on her operations. In 2020, Eric made a troubling discovery. Corey had secretly secured a $250,000 line of credit against their family home, which Eric owned solely. This revelation shattered Eric's trust in his wife's financial integrity. In response, Eric consulted a divorce attorney and took immediate steps to protect his assets and his children's future. He secretly established a family trust, naming his sister, Katie, as the trustee and executor, and designating his 3 sons as the sole beneficiaries of his estate, effectively excluding Corey. Despite these measures, the couple remained together, participating in marriage, counseling, and attempting to project an image of domestic harmony. Yet the underlying resentment and financial desperation continued to simmer. In the early morning hours of March 4th, 2022, Corey placed a frantic call to 911. She reported that she had spent the evening celebrating a major business acquisition with her husband, during which she had prepared a mixed drink for him. She claimed she later went to sleep in one of her son's bedrooms to comfort him during a night terror. When she returned to the master bedroom at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning, she found Eric cold to the touch and unresponsive. Emergency responders arrived at the scene to find Corey performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on her husband. Despite their efforts, Eric was pronounced deceased at the scene. Initial observations by paramedics, who noted a small amount of blood near Eric's mouth, led to a preliminary hypothesis that he may have suffered a sudden medical event, such as a brain aneurysm. However, the subsequent autopsy and toxicology analysis revealed a far more sinister reality. The medical examiner determined that Eric's death was caused by a lethal oral ingestion of illicit fentanyl. The concentration of the drug in his system was determined to be over 5 times the lethal dosage. Crucially, the substance was identified as illicitly manufactured street fentanyl rather than pharmaceutical-grade medication. The revelation of a fatal overdose in a healthy, athletic young man who was known to have no history of illicit drug use immediately transformed the medical inquiry into a homicide investigation. The Summit County Sheriff's Office, working alongside private investigators hired by Eric's suspicious family, began a deep examination of Corey's activities and financial records. The tension between the two families erupted almost immediately after Eric's passing. Within days of his death, Corey attempted to access a safe in the family home containing Eric's will. When Eric's sister, Amy, intervened, pointing out that Eric had altered his estate plan to exclude his wife, a physical altercation ensued, resulting in Corey's arrest and subsequent conviction for simple assault. As the financial investigation progressed, detectives uncovered the true extent of Corey's financial distress. She was facing millions of dollars in debt, with several of her properties, including the Midway Mansion, facing foreclosure. Furthermore, investigators discovered that Corey had taken out multiple life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge, totaling nearly $2 million in coverage. The behavioral evidence grew even more complex when, in the year following Eric's death, Corey authored and self-published a children's grief book titled, Are You With Me? The book, written from the perspective of a child wondering if their deceased father is still present in their life, was dedicated to Eric. Corey embarked on a media campaign to promote the book, appearing on local television programs to discuss her family's journey through grief and offering advice to other bereaved parents. To the public, she presented herself as a tragic, courageous widow. To investigators, this public display was increasingly viewed as a calculated effort to deflect suspicion and control the narrative. The breakthrough in the criminal investigation came through the analysis of Corey's communication records. Investigators identified frequent text messages and calls between Corey and a woman named Carmen Lauber, who had previously worked for Corey's cleaning service and possessed a known history of drug offenses. Faced with potential drug distribution and weapon charges, Lauber agreed to cooperate with law enforcement. She revealed that Corey had approached her on 2 separate occasions prior to Eric's death, requesting that she procure strong pain medication, specifically identifying fentanyl. Lauber admitted to purchasing the illicit pills from a local dealer and delivering them to Corey. The timing of these transactions was highly significant. The first delivery occurred in early February of 2022. On Valentine's Day of that year, Corey purchased a sandwich for Eric from a local deli. After taking a single bite of the sandwich, Eric became violently ill, suffering a severe reaction that required him to use his son's epinephrine auto-injector and take antihistamines before falling into a deep sleep. He subsequently texted a friend stating that he believed his wife had attempted to poison him. The second delivery of fentanyl from Lauber to Corey occurred on February 26th, just days before Eric's fatal overdose. In addition to the financial motive, investigators uncovered evidence of a romantic incentive. Cell phone records revealed that Corey had been engaged in a long-term, secretive affair with a handyman named Josh Grossman. The two exchanged daily, highly affectionate messages, with Corey expressing a deep desire to leave her marriage and build a future with Grossman, suggesting that life would be perfect if her husband were to simply go away. In May of 2023, Corey Richins was arrested and charged with aggravated murder and multiple counts of possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute. While held in the Summit County Jail pending trial, Corey's actions continued to draw the attention of authorities. During a routine search of her cell, corrections officers discovered a handwritten 4-page letter addressed to her mother. The letter, which the prosecution characterized as an attempt at witness tampering, instructed her mother to direct her brother, Ronnie, to deliver false testimony claiming that Eric had routinely obtained pain medication and fentanyl during trips to Mexico. In March of 2024, the prosecution amended the charges to include attempted murder, specifically relating to the Valentine's Day sandwich incident. Despite the mounting evidence, Corey maintained her innocence, releasing an audio statement from jail claiming she had always sought to protect her husband and would never harm him. The highly anticipated trial commenced in a small courthouse near Park City, Utah. The prosecution presented a comprehensive case detailing Corey's immense debt, her secret insurance policies, her affair, and the testimony of Carmen Lauber and the drug supplier. Perhaps the most poignant moment of the trial occurred when Josh Grossman took the stand. Visible, shaken, and emotional, Grossman testified about their relationship and the corny, affectionate text messages they had exchanged. Crucially, he recounted a conversation they had shared in her vehicle after Eric's death, during which Corey had asked him if he had ever killed anyone during his military service in Iraq and how that experience had made him feel. The defense focused their strategy on highlighting the absence of direct physical evidence showing Corey placing the drugs in Eric's drink on the night of his death, in a dramatic and unexpected legal maneuver following the conclusion of the state's 13-day presentation. The defense chose to rest their case without calling a single witness or presenting a defense narrative, banking on their belief that the prosecution had failed to meet the high burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. After a trial lasting several weeks, the 8-member jury retired to deliberate. In under 3 hours, they returned with a unanimous verdict, finding Corey Richins guilty of aggravated murder and all remaining charges. The swift verdict brought a sense of relief and justice to Eric's family and friends who had endured years of emotional turmoil. For the community, the conviction of Corey Richins served as a sobering reminder of the devastating consequences of unbridled ambition, deception, and the chilling capacity of an individual to wear a mask of grief to conceal a terrible deed. As we reflect on these two extraordinary cases, we are reminded of the vital importance of professional, scientific, and dedicated law enforcement work. Whether through the innovative application of digital geofencing in the search for Nancy Woodrum, or the relentless financial and forensic analysis that exposed the actions of Corey Richins, justice was ultimately served through the quiet, patient effort to uncover the truth. In the end, the memory of the victims and the love they shared with their families remains the true light that dispels even the deepest darkness. The anatomy of deception. In the quiet corridors of human experience, we often comfort ourselves with the belief that evil announces itself. We expect the monstrous to wear a recognizable mask, to speak in harsh tones, and to dwell in the shadowed margins of society. Yet, as any seasoned criminal psychology analyst will observe, the most chilling threats often wear the face of the mundane. They are found in the pleasant smiles of neighbors, the ambitious strides of local entrepreneurs, and the solemn countenances of grieving spouses. Deception is not merely a falsehood spoken to evade consequences. It is an elaborate lifestyle, a constructed reality designed to shield the perpetrator from the gaze of justice, and occasionally from their own conscience. To understand the criminal mind is to embark on a journey through the labyrinth of human rationalization, the transition from processing personal or financial distress to executing a cold, calculated act of malice requires a psychological scaffolding. The individual must convince themselves that their desires outweigh the very existence of another. In this exploration, we examine too deeply troubling cases that unfolded in seemingly idyllic landscapes, the mountain towns of Utah and the sun-drenched vineyards of California. Both narratives reveal the intricate dance between outward presentation and inward rot, and both serve as testaments to the quiet, relentless brilliance of modern investigative forces. Through the lens of forensic science, digital footprints, and psychological profiling, we will deconstruct how these modern mysteries were unraveled. In doing so, we honor the memory of the victims. Eric Richins, a devoted father and craftsman, and Nancy Woodrum, a woman of deep faith and generous spirit. Their lives were cut short by individuals who believed their own cleverness could outmatch the natural order of truth. But as these cases demonstrate, the truth has a patient, persistent way of rising to the surface. The Gilded Lamentation, the case of Corey Richins. The public first encountered Corey Richins not as a suspect, but as an apostle, of grief. On local television screens, she appeared as a picture of tragic resilience, a young mother of 3 young boys, ages 10, 9, and 6, navigating the unbearable void left by the sudden and unexpected passing of her 39-year-old husband, Eric. She sat before interviewers, her voice steady but laced with soft sorrow, promoting a self-published children's book titled, "Are You With Me?" The book, she explained, was born from her family's private struggle. It was presented as a literary nightlight for children navigating the dark, frightening waters of loss. The narrative spoke of a child wondering if his deceased father was still present at soccer games, cheering from an unseen sideline, while the father's spirit replied with reassuring warmth. To the casual observer, Corey was a heroine of domestic tragedy, converting her immense pain into a public service. Yet to the trained analyst, there is often a delicate, almost imperceptible line between genuine memorialization and psychological displacement. Sometimes, the perpetrator of a heinous act will wrap themselves in the mantle of the victim's advocate. It is a highly sophisticated form of cognitive shielding. By writing a book about the tragedy, Corey was not merely comforting her children. She was attempting to write the definitive narrative of Eric's death before anyone else could examine the footnotes. She was constructing a monument to her own innocence, printed on glossy pages and bound in paternal sentimentality. But behind this literary facade lay a dark, chaotic reality of immense debt, fractured family trust, and a double life that would ultimately collapse under the weight of forensic truth. The fateful call and the silent house. The official record of this tragedy begins not with a book, but with a frantic call to emergency services, a little after 3 in the morning on a cold March night. Corey's voice filled the dispatch lines. She reported that her husband, Eric, was cold to the touch and not breathing. The dispatcher, operating with the calm urgency of their profession, instructed her to begin chest compressions, counting out the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. When emergency responders arrived at the family's residence in Kamas, Utah, they found a chaotic scene. Firefighters and paramedics descended upon the master bedroom, where Eric lay on his back on the floor. A cardiopulmonary resuscitation machine was deployed, its rhythmic mechanical thudding filling the tense air. But there was no pulse, no breath, no spark of life remaining. Eric Richins had been dead for some time before the first siren wailed in the distance. On the body-worn cameras of the responding officers, we see Corey standing in the hallway, attempting to explain the inexplicable. Her narrative was a tapestry of domestic routine and sudden medical failure. She explained that they had been celebrating a successful real estate transaction earlier that evening, sharing a drink at 9 o'clock to toast her professional triumph. She mentioned that one of her sons had suffered a night terror, prompting her to go to the child's room to comfort him. When she returned to the master bedroom in the early hours of the morning, she reached out to her husband, only to find him unresponsive. When officers questioned her about Eric's health, she painted a picture of minor ailments. She mentioned he suffered from Lyme disease, a condition he contracted during his outdoor excursions, and suggested he occasionally took a sleeping aid or a tetrahydrocannabinol gummy to rest. But she insisted he was otherwise healthy, an active and athletic man who worked hard on the family's cattle ranch and ran a highly successful stonemasonry business. Yet, even in those first hours, the sharp eyes of the first responders noticed details that did not quite align with a peaceful passing in the night. There was a surprising amount of blood around Eric's mouth, a detail that puzzled the paramedics. An initial tentative hypothesis of a brain aneurysm was floated by an emergency medical technician on the scene, a theory that Corey and her mother quickly adopted. To the grieving family, it was a comforting explanation, a sudden, silent biological betrayal that no one could have prevented. But the state has a legal and moral obligation to investigate any sudden, unexpected death of a young, healthy individual. The county coroner's office initiated a forensic autopsy, a standard procedure that would soon tear away the veil of natural tragedy, the fraudulent foundation. To understand the motivation behind Eric Richens' death, one must look past the suburban luxury of the family home and peer into the ledger books of Corey's business ventures. Corey had grown up in a family of modest means, moving frequently as her parents worked construction jobs. She was a young woman of intense ambition, a quality that could be a virtue when tempered by ethics, but a dangerous catalyst when fueled by greed. For years, she had watched the wealthy residents of Park City from distance, cleaning their expansive mansions as part of her aunt's business. She harbored a deep, driving desire to be the one who owned the mansions, not the one who scrubbed their floors. In 2019, she launched her own Real estate firm, specializing in home flipping. On the surface, she appeared highly successful, managing 15 projects simultaneously and posting celebratory videos on social media with satisfied clients. But the reality of high-stakes real estate is unforgiving. Corey had set her sights on her most ambitious project yet, a massive, unfinished mansion in Midway, Utah, valued at nearly $3 million. She envisioned transforming this property into a grand event space for weddings, a venture she believed would secure her place among the local elite. To fund this dream, she began operating in the high-risk world of hard money loans, borrowing millions of dollars at exorbitant interest rates. As her debts mounted, Corey began to view her husband's assets not as family security, but as a personal reserve. In 2020, Eric discovered a devastating betrayal. Corey had secretly forged his signature to secure a $250,000 line of credit against their family home, a property that Eric owned solely. This discovery shattered the foundation of their marriage. Eric, a traditional man who valued hard work and financial prudence, consulted a divorce attorney. Though they remained together and entered counseling, the trust was permanently broken. Eric took quiet, deliberate steps to protect his assets and, most importantly, his 3 young sons. He established a private trust naming his sister as the executor and designating his children as the sole beneficiaries of his estate and the family home. He signed a prenuptial agreement on the very day of their wedding, a document that Corey had signed with great reluctance, which ensured his masonry business would remain his alone unless he passed away while they were married. Thus, a terrible financial calculus began to take shape in the shadows of Corey's mind. If Eric divorced her, she would be left ruined, buried under millions of dollars of business debt with no access to his wealth. But if Eric were to die, she would stand to inherit his life insurance policies, his estate, and the freedom to pursue her real estate empire unhindered. The forensic revelation. When the toxicological analysis of Eric's blood was completed, the results sent shockwaves through the community. There was no brain aneurysm, no sudden heart failure, and no complication from Lyme disease. The cause of death was acute drug intoxication. Specifically, the medical examiner found a massive, lethal concentration of fentanyl in Eric's system, a dosage 5 times the amount required to kill an average adult. Crucially, the substance was identified as illicitly manufactured fentanyl, not the medical-grade compound prescribed by doctors. This was a street drug, substance manufactured in clandestine laboratories containing impurities that pointed directly to an illegal source. For Eric's family, the report confirmed their worst fears. Eric was a man who despised drugs, who built his life on physical labor and outdoor sports. He did not abuse opioids. His family immediately directed the attention of law enforcement toward Corey, sharing their long-held suspicions about her financial deceptions and previous bizarre illnesses that Eric had suffered. Armed with the toxicological findings, the Summit County Sheriff's Office initiated a homicide investigation. Investigators secured search warrants for the Richens' home, seizing electronic devices, cell phones, and financial documents, while they found no physical traces of fentanyl within the residence. The digital evidence would tell a far more damning story. The illicit pipeline. A criminal investigation is often a process of reconstructing a suspect's digital life. When detectives analyzed Corey's phone records, they discovered a persistent, high-frequency circle of communication. Aside from her husband and her mother, Corey was in constant contact with a woman named Carmen Lauber, a local resident with a history of drug-related offenses who had worked as a cleaner on some of Corey's real estate properties. Under the direction of lead detective Jeff O'Driscoll, law enforcement began to focus on Carmen, using a tactical opportunity presented by Carmen's probation status. Detectives searched her residence and uncovered evidence of drug possession and an illegal firearm. Facing the prospect of decades in prison, Carmen agreed to cooperate with the state, revealing the grim details of her transactions with Corey. According to Carmen, Corey had approached her in early 2022, asking if she could procure strong pain medication for an investor who had suffered a back injury. Carmen complied, obtaining hydrocodone pills. But shortly thereafter, Corey returned with a more specific, lethal request. She wanted some of that Cold War stuff, which Carmen understood to mean fentanyl. Carmen reached out to her local dealer, a man named Robert Crozier. She purchased a batch of illicit pills and delivered them to Corey at a real estate property. But a few weeks later, Corey contacted her again, complaining that the first batch was not strong enough and demanding a more potent dosage. Carmen secured a second delivery of fentanyl pills shortly before Eric's death. The chronological alignment of these drug acquisitions with critical events in the Richens household was devastating. On the 14th of February, 2022, Valentine's Day, Corey purchased a breakfast sandwich for Eric from a local diner. Within minutes of taking a bite, Eric became violently ill, exhibiting symptoms of an allergic reaction or poisoning. He was forced to use his son's epinephrine auto-injector and take Benadryl before losing consciousness. He survived that day, but he sent a text message to a friend containing a chilling prophetic warning. I think she tried to poison me. The courtroom drama. In May of 2023, the state of Utah formally arrested Corey Richens, charging her with aggravated murder and multiple counts of possession of controlled substances with the intent to distribute. The arrest of a successful businesswoman and children's book author captured national attention, transforming the quiet mountain courthouse into a media circus. When the trial finally commenced, the prosecution, led by attorney Brad Bloodworth, presented a meticulous case built on 3 pillars: financial desperation, romantic evasion, and forensic science. The state argued that Corey was drowning in a sea of debt exceeding $4 million and had constructed a plan to murder her husband to secure his assets and escape a marriage she felt trapped in. To support the romantic motive, the prosecution introduced a witness whose presence in the courtroom was a literal bombshell: Josh Grossman, a handyman and war veteran with whom Corey had been conducting a secret, intense affair. Grossman took the stand, his demeanor a mixture of sorrow and profound embarrassment. The state projected their private text messages onto a massive screen, exposing the raw, intimate details of their relationship to the court. While Grossman spoke of genuine affection, the text messages revealed a highly revealing psychological dynamic. Corey had painted a fantasy life for Grossman, promising him a future where they would live together in the guest house of the Midway mansion, operating a lucrative event center and raising children. But the most damning text message was sent less than 48 hours before Eric's death. Corey had messaged Grossman, pleading with him to hang in until Friday, promising that life is going to be different, I promise. Friday was the day Eric Richens died. Furthermore, Grossman testified to a chilling conversation they shared in her. In the weeks following Eric's death, Corey had turned to him, looking at his military background, and asked if he had ever killed anyone during his service in Iraq and how it made him feel. It was a question that hung heavily in the air of the courtroom, a window into her preoccupation with the psychology of termination, the unexpected resolution. The prosecution's case spanned 13 days, featuring expert accountants, medical examiners, digital analysts, and close friends of both the victim and the defendant. When the state rested, the courtroom prepared for a lengthy, complex defense presentation expected to last over a week. But a move that stunned legal observers and the jury alike, Corey's newly appointed defense team, led by public defenders Kathy Nestor and Winnie Lewis, stood up and immediately rested their case without calling a single witness. In the calculus of criminal defense, resting without presenting a case is a high-risk gamble. It is a statement to the jury that the prosecution has failed to meet the high burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense argued that there was no direct forensic evidence, no physical traces of fentanyl on Corey's hands, and no eyewitness to the act of administration. They suggested that Eric's death was a tragic, self-inflicted accidental overdose, pointing to his occasional use of sleep aids. But the jury, composed of 8 citizens, was not swayed by the defense's silence. They had seen the toxicological reports, the financial records, the drug pipeline through Carmen Lauber, and the incriminating internet searches Corey had conducted, which included queries about luxury prisons for the rich and what is a lethal dose of fentanyl. After a deliberation of less than 3 hours, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty of aggravated murder and all remaining charges. The conviction of Corey Richins was a triumph of systematic, modern detective work over a highly calculated domestic plot. It proved that a children's book, a sympathetic television interview, and a wealth of social media posts cannot obscure the cold, hard reality of forensic science. For Eric's family, the verdict brought a quiet, solemn sense of justice, a realization that the bright light of truth had finally pierced the gilded veneer of Corey's deception. The shadow over Paradise Ranch, the case of Nancy Woodrum. While the mountain valleys of Utah were grappling with the trial of Corey, Richins, another equally chilling mystery, had unfolded years earlier along the scenic coast of California. The Central Coast region, particularly the town of Paso Robles, is famous for its rolling hills, ancient oak trees, and world-class vineyards. It is a destination of peace and natural beauty, a place where people go to escape the frantic pace of metropolitan life. In this beautiful landscape lived Nancy Woodrum, a 62-year-old woman who ran a popular hair salon called The Strand. Nancy was a pillar of her community, known for her warmth, her generosity, and her deep, abiding faith as a Jehovah's Witness. She was an avid equestrian, finding peace and spiritual connection while riding her horse, Montana, through the scenic trails of her property on L. Faro Road. In 2006, Nancy and her late husband, Robert, had purchased a rural property, which they painstakingly remodeled into a stunning estate they named Paradise Ranch. Following Robert's passing, Nancy turned the main house into a highly popular vacation rental, while she lived in a small, cozy cottage on the same land. Her goal was simple. She wished to sell the ranch, simplify her life, and devote her remaining years to full-time ministry, sharing her hope of a peaceful future with others. But in May of 2018, Paradise Ranch would become the stage for a terrifying crime, transforming a tranquil wedding weekend into a high-stakes investigation. The revelation of absence. The alarm was first raised on a Saturday morning when Nancy failed to appear for a scheduled Bible study, an absence that was deeply out of character for a woman of her devotion. Her daughter, Amanda, contacted a neighbor to check on her mother's cottage. The neighbor's report was chilling. The front door of the cottage was wide open. The television was blaring, but Nancy was nowhere to be found. When Amanda arrived at the property, her worst fears were realized. The cottage was intact. Nancy's purse, car keys, cellular phone, and tablet were still resting on a bench, and her 2 vehicles were parked outside. But there were horrific signs of violence. 2 large, dark blood stains marred the bedroom carpet. There was blood spatter on the walls, the headboard in a nearby cabinet. The sheets and bedding from her bed were entirely missing. The situation was exceptionally complicated. That very weekend, more than 20 wedding guests had checked into the main house at Paradise Ranch for a vineyard wedding. The property was filled with people celebrating a joyous occasion, completely unaware that a violent struggle had taken place only yard away from where they slept. When the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office received the emergency call, Senior Deputy Clinton Cole was dispatched to the scene. Cole, a veteran investigator, recognized immediately that this was not a simple missing persons case. It was a crime scene of the most serious nature. Nancy Woodrum had been assaulted in her bedroom and taken against her will. The scattered clues. As forensic teams processed the cottage, they faced a daunting list of potential suspects. The wedding guests who had access to the property had to be interviewed and ruled out. Some guests, including one who had stayed behind, while others attended the rehearsal dinner, initially exhibited defensive behavior, raising red flags for the investigators. But systematic questioning, supported by digital photographs from the dinner event, eventually cleared them of involvement. The investigation received its first major breakthrough on that same Saturday evening. A California Highway Patrol officer reported finding a bundle of bloody bedding and women's clothing discarded along La Ponza Road, a remote rural route, approximately 7 miles from Paradise Ranch. Amanda confirmed that the gingham pattern sheets and the clothing belonged to her mother. The evidence painted a grim picture. Nancy had been wrapped in her own bedding and transported to a secondary, unknown location. But who had the Local knowledge to navigate these remote dirt roads in the dark of night. While examining the master bedroom, a forensic specialist made a critical observation. On a beige pillow left on the bed, there was a partial handprint, pressed in blood. The nature of the print suggested that the pillow had been used as a tool of compression, perhaps to smother Nancy during the assault. Investigators carefully swabbed the blood and the handprint, extracting a sample of unknown male deoxyribonucleic acid. The sample was run through the national database, but it returned no matches. This meant the perpetrator was someone without a criminal record, a ghost in the system who had never been fingerprinted or swabbed by law enforcement. The digital trap. As the weeks turned into months, the investigation began to stall. The sheriff's department faced growing public pressure, with community members fearing that a predator was loose in their peaceful valley. Investigators had systematically cleared local contractors, disgruntled workers, and even Nancy's estranged family members through voluntary deoxyribonucleic acid testing. But the detectives refused to let the case go cold. They decided to deploy a cutting-edge forensic tool that had never been used in their county and was virtually unprecedented in the state of California: a Google geofence search warrant. Geofencing is a highly sophisticated digital technique. It allows investigators to draw a virtual boundary around a specific geographic area and request Google to identify any active mobile devices that entered that boundary during a precise window of time. The timeline for the search warrant was established by a crucial piece of evidence. When investigators analyzed Nancy's phone records, they discovered a failed emergency 911 call attempted at 12:17 on the night. She disappeared. The call had been terminated after 0 seconds, indicating that someone had forcefully seized the phone or shut it off the moment she tried to call for help. Using this precise timestamp, detectives drew a virtual fence around Nancy's cottage. When the data returned from Google, it was incredibly sparse, which was a blessing for investigators. In a rural, isolated area like El Faro Road, there should be no random cell phone activity in the middle of the night. The geofence data revealed a single, unknown mobile device pinging inside Nancy's cottage at 1:33 and 1:52 in the morning. Google provided the unique device identification number, which led investigators to the subscriber information. The owner of the device was Carlo Fuentes Flores, the two faces of the perpetrator. The name was immediately familiar to the investigators. Carlo Fuentes Flores was a local painter who had been hired to perform exterior maintenance on the buildings at Paradise Ranch to prepare the property for sale. During the initial phase of the investigation, detectives had interviewed Fuentes Flores. He had been exceptionally polite, cooperative, and mild-mannered. He had spoken warmly of Nancy, describing her as a hard worker, who had read scriptures with him and even gifted him homemade tamales. He had a wife, a young daughter whom he adored, and a spotless record with no history of violence or criminal activity in either the United States of America or Mexico. But the geofence data did not lie. His phone had been inside Nancy's home in the dead of night, at the exact hour she was abducted. To understand how a seemingly peaceful family man could be connected to such a horrific crime, detectives conducted a forensic audit of his digital life. What they discovered was a classic psychological duality, a classic Jekyll and Hyde scenario. By day, Fuentes Flores was a neat, professional painter, highly recommended by his employers and beloved by his family. But by night, his digital searches revealed a dark, obsessive fixation. He spent hours consuming specific categories of internet pornography, focusing on older women or cougars. His phone contained numerous self-shot videos of encounters with escorts and call girls, revealing a secret life of compulsion and infidelity that he kept hidden from his wife and community. Detectives now had a motive, a sexually motivated obsession with Nancy, fueled by his proximity to her while working on her property, combined with a belief that his quiet, respectful demeanor would shield him from suspicion. The path to resolution. To secure an arrest, investigators needed a direct link between Fuentes Flores and the crime scene. They launched a covert surveillance operation, tracking him to a local restaurant where he had lunch with his wife. When he departed, an undercover officer quickly retrieved the plastic Coca-Cola bottle he had used. The forensic laboratory extracted his deoxyribonucleic acid from the bottle and compared it to the male profile found on the bloody pillow from Nancy's bedroom. It was a perfect match. Armed with this definitive evidence, detectives Clinton Cole and Dave Agredano brought Fuentes Flores in for questioning. The interrogation, conducted in a quiet room at the Templeton substation, was a masterclass in interview technique. Initially, Fuentes Flores maintained his polite, cooperative facade, explaining his painting routine and denying any knowledge of Nancy's disappearance. But as the detectives systematically presented the evidence, showing him photographs of the property and revealing that they had his digital tracking data, his physical composure began to crumble. He fell into a chair, crying, and confessed that he had gone to the property. That night, he initially attempted to fabricate a story of an accident, claiming he had returned to retrieve a ladder and had accidentally struck Nancy with his truck, subsequently taking her inside to help her. But the detectives pressed further, pointing to the blood in the bedroom and the DNA on the pillow. Fuentes Flores finally broke, admitting that he had entered her home through the unlocked door with the sole intention of sexually assaulting her. When she resisted and attempted to call for help, he assaulted her, raped her, and ultimately smothered her with a pillow to prevent her from identifying him. The sacred soil. In a final, stunning moment of the interrogation, Fuentes Flores offered to lead the detectives to the location where he had left Nancy's body. The journey was a somber, silent drive eastward into the vast, desolate landscape of the Carrizo Plain, nearly an hour away from Paso Robles. The area was a sweeping expanse of dry grass and rugged terrain, a place where a body could remain hidden forever. As the search party walked through the dry brush, Fuentes Flores began to lose his orientation in the uniform landscape. But Detective Cole, scanning the ground, noticed a small, unnatural pile of rocks. Upon closer inspection, the grim reality was exposed. Nancy's skeletal remains lay scattered by wild animals, left out in the open wilderness without the dignity of a proper burial. Fuentes Flores fell to his knees, weeping, realizing the absolute finality of his actions. In January of 2022, rather than facing a highly publicized trial, Fuentes Flores entered a special legal agreement known as a slow plea. The prosecution presented the overwhelming evidence to the judge, who formally found him guilty of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of rape and burglary. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The persistence of justice. Both of these tragic narratives, though unfolding in different landscapes and under different circumstances, share a profound psychological commonality. They show us that the perpetrators of violent crimes are often individuals who believe they're the authors of their own destiny, possessing an arrogance that allows them to disregard the lives of others for their own personal gain or dark desires. Corey Richins believed that her status as a mother, an author, and a prominent businesswoman would protect her from the suspicion of law enforcement. She believed that by writing a children's book about grief, she could manipulate the emotions of her community and escape the consequences of a cold, calculated poisoning. Carlo Fuentes Flores believed that his polite demeanor, his hardworking reputation, and the remote nature of Paradise Ranch would allow him to commit a brutal assault and return to his normal family life without a trace. But both individuals underestimated the relentless dedication of the investigative forces and the power of modern forensic science, whether through the toxicological analysis of a single blood sample or the digital mapping of a global positioning system geofence. The truth was systematically uncovered. Justice, in these cases, is not merely a legal verdict. It is the restoration of order to communities that were shattered by violence. It is the quiet reassurance to the families of Eric Richins and Nancy Woodrum that they're loved. Ones are not forgotten, and that the individuals responsible for their suffering will spend the remainder of their days behind the cold concrete walls of a penitentiary. As we look back on these cases, we are reminded of the profound resilience of the human spirit. We see it in the three young boys of Eric Richins, who are now growing up surrounded by the love of their extended family. We see in Amanda, Nancy's daughter, who continues her mother's passion for horses, riding through the same golden hills of Paso Robles, carrying on a legacy of faith, love, and light that no shadow can ever truly extinguish. The veneer of normalcy and the pathology of deception. In the study of criminal psychology, one of the most compelling areas of observation is the concept of the mask of normalcy. To the casual observer, the communities we inhabit appear orderly, bound by shared values, mutual respect, and the quiet routines of daily life. Yet, beneath this tranquil surface, individuals occasionally exist who carry a profound disconnect between their public persona and their private actions. As a criminal psychology analyst and narrative chronicler of investigative work, I have often observed that the most complex cases are not those born of sudden, chaotic impulses, but rather those that involve a slow, deliberate calculation masked by an outward appearance of warmth, success, or quiet diligence. This analysis examines two distinct criminal investigations that took place in different parts of the United States of America, although separated by geography, the natural landscape, and the specific dynamics of the communities in which they occurred. These cases share a common thread. They both involve perpetrators who believed they could exploit the trust of those around them, commit grave offenses, and escape detection through the maintenance of a carefully constructed facade. In Utah, we encounter the story of Corey Richens, a woman whose ambition, financial distress, and romantic desires led to a calculated plan to end her husband's life, followed by an audaciously public attempt to capitalize on her grief. In California, we examine the disappearance of Nancy Woodrum, a beloved business owner and grandmother whose life was tragically cut short by a local tradesman, Carlo Fuentes Flores, a man who hid a dark, obsessive double life behind a reputation for polite, hardworking professionalism. By reconstructing these investigations, we can explore not only the tactical successes of the law enforcement officers who solved them, but also the deeper psychological mechanisms at play. We will examine how greed, narcissism, and compartmentalization drive individuals to commit acts of extreme selfishness, and how the meticulous application of forensic science, modern technology, and human empathy ultimately brings the truth to light. Part 1. The Mountain Heights of Betrayal. The setting is Summit County, Utah, a region known for its majestic, snow-capped peaks, its affluent mountain communities, and a lifestyle centered around outdoor recreation, family values, and entrepreneurial ambition. In this environment, Eric Richens and his wife, Corey Richens, appeared to have built the quintessential American success story. Eric was a 40-year-old stonemason who had built a highly successful business, C&E Masonry, valued in the million. He was an athletic, outdoorsy, and deeply devoted father to their 3 young sons who were 10, 9, and 6 years of age. Corey, younger than her husband, was an ambitious woman who had transitioned from a stay-at-home mother into a highly active real estate investor and home flipper under her brand, K. Richens Realty. To the public, the Richens family lived an enviable life of luxury, filled with vacations, community involvement, and business growth. Yet on the night of March 3rd, 2022, this picture-perfect existence collapsed. in a matter of hours. At approximately 3 o'clock in the morning on March 4th, 2022, the silence of the mountain night was broken by a frantic call to 911. Corey Richens, speaking in a highly distressed voice, informed the emergency dispatcher that her husband was cold to the touch and not breathing. She was instructed by the dispatcher to begin cardiopulmonary resuscitation and to count out loud so that her efforts could be monitored. The rhythmic sounds of her counting 1, 2, 3, 4 echoed over the line as first responders rushed to the scene. When the paramedics, firefighters, and police officers arrived at the sprawling family residence, they found Eric Richens lying on his back on the floor of the master bedroom. He had no pulse, despite the immediate deployment of a cardiopulmonary resuscitation machine, which filled the room with a rhythmic, mechanical sound. It was quickly apparent that Eric was beyond saving. At 3:58 in the morning, he was officially declared dead. Furthermore, the responding medical personnel noted that Eric appeared to have been deceased for some time before the 911 call was placed, as his body had already begun to cool significantly. As the responding officers began their preliminary investigation, Corey offered an explanation for the evening's events. She stated that she and Eric had been celebrating a major financial success for her real estate business. Specifically, she had secured the contract to purchase a massive, unfinished luxury property known as the Midway Mansion for nearly $3 million. To celebrate, she had prepared a mixed alcoholic beverage, a Moscow Mule, which they drank in their bedroom before going to sleep. Corey explained that one of her young sons had woken up experiencing a night terror, which prompted her to go to the child's bedroom to comfort him. She claimed she fell asleep in her son's bed and did not wake up until approximately 3 o'clock in the morning. Upon returning to her own bedroom, she said she reached out to touch her husband, realized he was cold and unresponsive, and immediately placed the emergency call. When questioned about Eric's health, Corey and her mother, Lisa Darden, who arrived shortly after the police, suggested several possibilities. They mentioned that Eric suffered from Lyme disease, which he had contracted during a hunting trip and received weekly allergy shots. Corey also noted that he occasionally consumed tetrahydrocannabinol gummies to help him sleep, though she was unsure if he had taken one that evening. Lisa Darden added that Eric had looked unusually pale and unwell the day before, mentioning that he had complained of chest pains. However, as the emergency medical technicians and deputies worked in the bedroom, they observed details that did not easily align with a sudden, natural cardiac event. The paramedics noticed an unusual amount of blood coming from Eric's mouth during the chest compressions. This observation led to an early hypothesis among the first responders that Eric might have suffered a sudden, catastrophic internal hemorrhage or a ruptured brain aneurysm. Given Eric's young age, athletic condition, and the unexpected nature of his death, the county coroner's office was legally required to conduct a forensic autopsy. This decision marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would take years to fully unfold, revealing a stark contrast between Corey's public expressions of grief and the financial reality of her life. To understand the psychology of this case, one must examine the origins of the relationship between Eric and Corey. They met while Corey was working as a cashier at a newly opened Home Depot in Park City, Utah, which offered excellent pay for local workers. Eric, who frequently visited the store to purchase supplies for his masonry business, was drawn to her, and acquaintances recalled an immediate chemistry between them. However, their backgrounds and values differed significantly. Eric grew up in Bountiful, Utah, working on his family's cattle ranch in Summit County. He was a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, having served a 2-year mission in Mexico City, and he possessed a strong work ethic. His family valued stability, faith, and the outdoors. Corey, on the other hand, had grown up in a family that moved frequently due to her parents' work in construction. She had spent her youth cleaning the homes of wealthy residents in Park City and harbored a deep desire to achieve substantial wealth and status. When Corey became pregnant with their first child, the couple decided to marry. On the day of their backyard wedding, Eric's mother presented Corey with a prenuptial agreement. This agreement specified that Eric's stonemasonry business, sea and e-masonry, was solely his property, and that Corey would have no claim to its assets or revenue unless Eric were to pass away while they were still married. Corey was deeply upset by this requirement, but she ultimately signed the document to proceed with the marriage. This prenuptial agreement would later be viewed by investigators as a critical piece of the puzzle, establishing a strong financial motive. Over the next several years, the couple had 3 boys in quick succession. Eric was a dedicated father, coaching soccer and spending his free time with his sons. His business flourished, bringing in millions of dollars and providing the family with a highly comfortable lifestyle, complete with luxury travel and expensive dining. However, Corey was not content to remain a stay-at-home mother. In 2019, she launched K. Richens Realty, entering the highly competitive world of home flipping. Initially, her business appeared highly successful. She posted videos on social media celebrating her transactions and quickly expanded her operations to manage 15 different renovation projects simultaneously. But behind the scenes, her financial situation was deteriorating rapidly. Corey was utilizing hard money, loans which carry high interest rates and short repayment terms, to fund her acquisitions. In 2020, Eric discovered that Corey had secretly taken out a $250,000 line of credit against their family home, which was solely owned by Eric. This discovery caused a severe rift in the marriage. Eric, realizing that his wife had forged his signature to secure the loan, consulted a divorce attorney. Although the couple chose to undergo marriage counseling and did not separate, Eric took a decisive step to protect his assets and his children. He secretly established a new estate plan, creating a trust, that named his sister, Katie, as the executor and trustee and designated his 3 young sons as the sole beneficiaries of his assets, including the family home. He intentionally excluded Corey from the trust, ensuring that she could not access his wealth in the event of his death. As investigators would later discover, Corey's financial desperation grew significantly throughout 2021 and into early 2022. She was heavily indebted, owing millions of dollars to numerous lenders, and she was desperate to secure the Midway mansion, a high-risk property she believed would cement her status as a top-tier real estate developer. She desperately needed access to Eric's money to salvage her failing business and satisfy her creditors. Following Eric's death, Corey's immediate focus turned to his estate. The morning after a gathering at the home where friends and family had reminisced about Eric, Corey hired a locksmith to drill open the safe in the house, believing his will was stored inside. This action sparked a physical altercation with Eric's sister, Amy, who informed Corey that Eric had altered his estate plan and that the house and his assets belonged to the trust, not to her. Corey, in a rage, allegedly assaulted Amy, leading to her arrest and a subsequent conviction for assault. Despite this intense conflict, Corey quickly pivoted to a highly public campaign of self-preservation and promotion, asserting that she could find no suitable children's books to help her 3 sons process their grief. She claimed to have written a book titled, Are You With Me? The book, which she self-published with the assistance of a ghostwriter, was dedicated to her amazing husband. It featured a child asking if his deceased father was present during key moments, such as scoring a goal in a soccer game, followed by the father's reassuring spirit confirming his presence. In March of 2023, 1 year after Eric's death, Corey embarked on a promotional tour, appearing on local radio and television programs such as Good Things Utah. During these interviews, she presented herself as a vulnerable, courageous widow seeking to help other families navigate the trauma of sudden loss. Her performance was highly polished, earning her widespread sympathy from viewers. However, the criminal investigation into Eric's death had never ceased. When the toxicological analysis of Eric's blood was completed, the results were shocking. The cause of death was determined to be a massive overdose of fentanyl. Specifically, the level of the drug in his system was 5 times the lethal limit. Furthermore, the toxicology report identified the presence of acetyl fentanyl, a highly potent chemical variant associated with illicitly manufactured street drugs rather than medical-grade pharmaceuticals. This finding immediately transformed the case into a homicide investigation. Eric Richins had no history of drug abuse, and his family and friends were adamant that he would never knowingly consume fentanyl. Investigators from the Summit County Sheriff's Office, led by Detective Jeff O'Driscoll, began a meticulous review of Corey's electronic devices and financial transactions. A breakthrough occurred when the family's private investigator, who had been hired to look into Eric's suspicious death, uncovered a pattern of communication. On Corey's phone, investigators identified 3 primary contacts during the months leading up to and immediately following Eric's death. Eric, her mother, Lisa Darden, and a woman named Carmen Lauber. Carmen Lauber had a history of substance abuse and criminal involvement, and she had worked for Corey's family cleaning homes and properties. Believing Carmen was the source of the drugs, Detective O'Driscoll searched her trash, discovering drug paraphernalia that provided probable cause to obtain a search warrant for her residence. During the search, officers discovered a firearm, which Carmen was prohibited from possessing as a convicted felon, and a copy of Eric's obituary taped to her mirror. Faced with severe drug and weapon charges, Carmen chose to cooperate with the prosecution. She revealed that Corey had asked her to procure strong pain medication for an investor who had suffered a back injury. Carmen stated that she purchased hydrocodone pills and delivered them to Corey. Shortly thereafter, Corey contacted her again, stating that the investor needed something stronger. Some of that Michael Jackson stuff, referring to fentanyl. Carmen admitted to purchasing illicit fentanyl pills from a dealer named Robert Crozier and delivering them to Corey on 2 separate occasions, once in February and again in late February, just days before Eric's death. The timing of these transactions aligned perfectly with a series of suspicious illnesses Eric had experienced. Investigators discovered that during a trip to Greece in 2019, Eric had become violently ill after drinking a beverage prepared by Corey, leading him to call his sister and express his fear that his wife had attempted to poison him. More recently, on Valentine's Day of 2022, Corey had purchased a bagel sandwich from a local diner and left it for Eric with a loving note. After taking a single bite of the sandwich, Eric suffered a severe reaction requiring the use of his son's epinephrine pen and a large dose of antihistamines. He texted a friend that day, stating, "You almost lost me this time. I think she might have poisoned me." The investigation also uncovered a romantic motive. Investigators discovered that Corey had been engaged in a long-term, secret affair with a handyman named Josh Grossman. The two exchanged highly intimate text messages almost daily. In these messages, Corey expressed a deep desire to be with Josh, stating that she felt trapped in her marriage. In February of 2022, she sent a text message to Josh that read, "If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect." Just 48 hours before Eric's death, she sent another message urging Josh to hang in there until Friday, promising that life is going to be different, I promise. On May 8th, 2023, Corey Richins was arrested and charged with aggravated murder and multiple counts of possession of controlled substances with the intent to distribute. The arrest shocked the community, turning the self-proclaimed grieving author into a prime suspect in a cold-blooded murder. during her pretrial detention in the Summit County Jail further evidence of her consciousness of guilt emerged. During a routine search of her cell, deputies discovered a handwritten, 4-page letter hidden in her mattress, commonly referred to as the walk the dog letter. In the letter, Corey instructed her mother to tell her brother, Ronnie, to testify that Eric had obtained pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico through ranch workers. This was a clear attempt to fabricate an alternative explanation for the source of the lethal drugs. The prosecution subsequently amended the charges to include attempted murder for the Valentine's Day poisoning incident, along with multiple counts of mortgage fraud, forgery, and insurance fraud, as they discovered she had taken out several life insurance policies on Eric without his knowledge. The trial of Corey Richins was a highly publicized event. The prosecution, led by Brad Bloodworth, presented a comprehensive case detailing her massive financial debts, her calculated attempts to poison her husband, her secret affair, and the testimony of Carmen Lauber regarding the purchase of the fentanyl. The defense, led by public defenders Kathy Nestor and Wendy Lewis, argued that the prosecution's case was purely circumstantial, pointing out that no physical evidence of fentanyl had been found in the home during the initial search, and that the state could not prove exactly how the drug had entered Eric's system. They attacked the credibility of Carmen Lauber, portraying her as an active drug user who had fabricated her story to secure a favorable plea deal. A particularly dramatic moment occurred during the testimony of Josh Grossman, who wept on the stand as his private, intimate text messages with Corey were displayed for the courtroom. He recalled the conversation they had after Eric's death, in which Corey asked him if he had ever killed anyone during his military service in Iraq and how it had made him feel. In a highly unusual move, after the prosecution rested its 13-day case, the defense chose to rest immediately without calling any witnesses or presenting any evidence of their own. They believed the prosecution had failed to meet its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury, consisting of 8 members, deliberated for just under 3 hours. On all counts, including aggravated murder and attempted murder, they returned a verdict of guilty. The swift verdict brought a profound sense of relief to Eric's family, who embraced outside the courthouse, declaring that justice had finally been served. Corey Richins, the woman who had sought to write her own narrative of grief and resilience, was exposed as the author of her husband's death. She faced a sentence of up to life in prison without the possibility of parole, while her 3 young sons, the true victims of this tragedy, were adopted by one of Eric's sisters to grow up in a stable, loving environment far removed from the calculated greed of their mother. Part 2. The Shadows of Paradise Ranch. We now travel several hundred miles to the west, to the central coast of California, where the rolling hills, golden grasslands, and majestic oak trees of Paso Robles define a landscape of serene beauty. Paso Robles, whose historical name El Paso de Robles translates to the Pass of the Oaks, is a peaceful community renowned for its world-class vineyards, agricultural heritage, and historic downtown. In this quiet region, 62-year-old Nancy Woodrum was a cherished fixture. Nancy was a highly talented hairstylist who owned and operated a popular downtown salon called The Strand. She was known for her exceptional warmth, her generous spirit, and her ability to connect deeply with everyone who sat in her chair. Her daughter, Amanda, shared her mother's passion for cosmetology, working alongside her and sharing a close, enduring bond. Nancy was also a deeply devout Jehovah's Witness. Her faith was central to her life, guiding her strong moral values and filling her with a hopeful belief in a future paradise on earth. Beyond her faith and her career, Nancy was an avid equestrian who found great peace and joy in riding her beloved horse, Montana, through the scenic foothills of the local area. In 2006, Nancy and her late husband, Robert, a local contractor, purchased a secluded, rustic property on El Faro Road. They worked tirelessly to remodel the estate, turning it into a beautiful retreat featuring a 2-story Victorian home with spacious wraparound porches and a majestic willow tree. They named the property Paradise Ranch, reflecting Nancy's spiritual hope. After Robert's sudden and tragic passing from a heart attack, Nancy lived alone on the property, eventually choosing to utilize the main